Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our part one of our four-part transition webinar series, Future Careers as we Transition High School and Beyond. My name is Alex Colley, and I am the Program Director, and I will be your host for this evening. Since we are discussing transition, what is transition? Transition can be defined as a period of change from one state to another, and for many of you, transition can mean many things. As youth, just going through it, as you begin your journey to post-secondary, as a young adult, when you decide what career path you're going to go down, and as an adult, deciding where you are going to settle down. Tonight, we are joined by four alumni, all different ages, with decades apart, pursuing different stages in their lives. Tonight, they will be discussing their experience to the workforce during COVID. You will realize how unique their individual experiences are as they continue their transition journey. Diabetes is a commonality with all of our panelists and many of our audience here tonight, but COVID-19 is a reality for us all. We know that COVID hit the job market hard and affected many over the last few months. But did you know that Ontario's employment declined by 689,000 people in April, and unemployment is at its lowest rate since 2009? For our younger generation, ages 15 to 24, and many who are in temporary and part-time positions, employment declined by 32% between February and April. Throughout the webinar, we'll be sharing some hopeful career information and what our panelists are doing to manage these uncertain times. Just remember, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and as the job market is expected to improve gradually in the coming months as places begin to reopen. So let's begin by welcoming our four panelists this evening: Logan, Jamie, Allie, and Peter. So let's start with some introductions to get familiar with our speakers. So Logan, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, hi, I'm Logan. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2013 at the age of 11. I just recently turned 18 and will be graduating grade 12 at the end of June and going on to post-secondary university next year in the medical field, which was inspired by being diagnosed with diabetes. So a little bit about me. I started a club in my community for children and families living with type 1 diabetes, just to be able to have people lean on each other and have support for one another in the community. And alongside Alex, we actually host weekly Zoom meetings for children in our local area to help them have meet other children with type 1 diabetes and have relationships that way, especially during a difficult time when they can't be at school with their friends. And I also work alongside my clinic at the Royal Victoria Hospital for mentoring youth transitioning from elementary school to high school with type 1 diabetes and helping them navigate those challenges. And I actually am a scholarship recipient this year from the Diabetes Hope Foundation, so I'm really excited about that as well.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Logan. And Jamie, let's jump to you.
My name's Jamie. I received my Diabetes Hope Foundation scholarship in 2015. After that, I went off to Carleton University in Ottawa and studied social work for 4 years. About a year ago, or just short of a year ago, I graduated with my degree, and I'm now working full-time at a really small not-for-profit in Ottawa as a social worker. My main role there is to educate and connect families living with a diagnosis of epilepsy. So in the chronic illness field, which was entirely inspired by my own experience living with a chronic disease myself. And yeah, so I've been working there for a full year. And like I said, lots of groups, lots of social activities, just getting people connected with each other, just like Diabetes Hope Foundation.
Great. And Allie.
Hi, I'm Allie. I received my scholarship from the Diabetes Hope Foundation in 2013. I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis related diabetes, which is quite similar to type 1, in 2008 when I was 13 years old. Since then, I have done an undergrad degree at Carleton University as well in communication studies and psychology. This past year, I just wrapped up my postgrad diploma from Algonquin College in Ottawa in brand management. I currently work for Rogers Radio in their promotions department. And yeah, that's where I am now.
Very interesting, Allie. And last but not least, Peter.
Hi, everyone. Based on the other introductions, I'd say I'm the oldest panelist here. I've had type 1 diabetes for over 27 years now. I was a recipient of the scholarship in, I want to say 2004. That was a long time ago. I don't really remember. I have a degree in finance. I went to Wilfrid Laurier. I currently work in the finance industry. I've been in finance for about 12 to 13 years now. As you can imagine, in the current landscape, it's a pretty challenging landscape to be working in. Aside from career, I love dogs and I love to barbecue and or cook.
Well, Peter, you have a lot of time to barbecue. So.
I certainly do. Certainly do.
Exactly. Well, it's really great to hear that all of you share different experiences, and it's really going to create a diverse conversation here tonight. So let's really jump into tonight's conversation. And I want to hear from each of our panelists, where are you today? So alumni, what is your current work status and how has it changed since COVID-19? Jamie, let's start with you.
So I am fortunate enough to still be employed full-time. We have transitioned entirely to working from home, which has been not too far of a stretch because we were working from home periodically leading up to COVID regardless. But being stuck at home all the time now and not being able to go into the office has been interesting. However, our programming has remained the same. Our numbers have actually increased. So there is a positive side to putting everything online. It's a lot more accessible to our client base. So that's how COVID has kind of changed my work environment. Figuring out a work-life balance and that sort of thing has definitely tested my focus and my skill set, but I'm just really, really thankful to be able to still be employed full time.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jamie. Allie, let's jump to you.
Sure. So my work situation changed because my living situation also changed. Like I said, I'm from Ottawa. Since COVID, I've moved back home with my parents closer to Kingston. I was employed part-time all throughout school. And just like Jamie, thankfully, I'm very happy to be still employed part-time by them now. I've been able to work remotely on a few tasks, but my job is completely public facing, going to our events and promoting the radio stations. That has completely been off the table. But again, like I said, able to do some remote things from here. But.
Well, a big change from what you were doing then to what you're doing now. But Logan, let's hear from you.
Okay, well, I have been working part-time since I entered high school in grade 9, so I've had many different jobs. The one that I'm currently in now has been the job that I've had the longest. So I currently work in long-term care. At the moment, I am off due to COVID-19, just on recommendation by my healthcare provider and my employer until they can get the proper and necessary precautions in place to keep everyone safe, especially being type 1 diabetic and being in a high-risk group. With that, we've just been working out what's been best for me to do for now. So my expected date of return is coming in the next month or so. Hopefully they'll have everything in place that will make it safe enough for me to return. So I also have been trying to look into different things that I can be doing at home for now, and I haven't been able to find anything, but I'm still on the search.
Well, you're starting to have a plan, so that's a really good idea. And again, last but not least, Peter.
Age before beauty, right? So I actually started a new job about 3 months ago. So I am actively employed, which is great. Interestingly enough, as soon as I started this job, COVID was just kind of this little whisper that everyone kind of talked about in the news a little bit. I went to the UK for 3.5 weeks for training, and COVID kind of blew up and, started spreading. I got home from the UK and have been in my home office ever since, working very, very, very hard. My job involves dealing with a lot of financial data, cleansing data for people, sending it out to them, COVID's actually increasing our business. We're getting a lot more busy because a lot more people want to outsource things now that we're dealing with COVID. But as Jamie has alluded to before, I think the toughest thing about this whole COVID situation is the work-life balance. When you're sitting in your home office all day, it's very important to know when to draw the line to walk away from the computer and go watch reruns on TV because nothing else is on.
Yeah, that's very true. Finding that work-home and, that work-life balance. So, but it sounds like that many of your jobs were affected by COVID, but it's really good that all of you do have a plan. So Peter, I'm going to jump to you as well. So since you graduated post-secondary in 2008 during a recession, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with trying to find a job then? And do you see any similarities between what's happening then and what's happening now?
Yeah, so there are a lot of similarities. That being said, not that I've been actively looking in the job market, but when I did graduate, so I graduated from business school at Wilfrid Laurier. You know, it's a good school. You're supposed to get a job as soon as you leave that school. No one was hiring. In fact, everyone was firing people. Even getting an interview was next to impossible. I was applying to jobs that I was way overqualified for, and you know, standard excuse when you apply to those types of things is you're too overqualified for this position, right? So it was extremely difficult to find a job, and basically what I did is I gave up on my job search. I worked for my mom's company part-time, but I really focused on just taking more classes, building my education, and finally got into a finance role in 2009. So similarities are, you know, they're almost identical. I know it's really tough out there for people right now, but you know, keep your head up and you'll find something. You'll find something.
Just taking the time to make sure that you find something that's right for you. So I know, Peter, you have to jump off and you have another meeting to get to. So do you want to leave us with a little bit of advice for our audience here tonight?
Right. Absolutely. So kind of tying back to my experience with the financial crisis and what people are experiencing right now with COVID. For those of you who are looking to get into the job market, but it's not going so well, I know that can cause a lot of stress because there's all these milestones that you're expected to reach at certain points in your life. You're supposed to get a job as soon as you leave university, et cetera, et cetera. COVID is out of your control. The job market is out of your control. Don't let it stress you. There's always opportunities elsewhere. You can always learn more. You can always find other things you're good at. You can start what the youth call a side hustle. I'm told you can make money on the side doing other things. And basically, as I alluded to before, just keep your head up. It'll get better. It's already starting to get better. And, you know, before you know it, things will be back to normal.
I couldn't agree with you more. So thank you, Peter, for joining and sharing your insights and telling us about your career experiences.
No problem. My pleasure.
Thanks, Peter.
See ya.
So as Peter shared his experiences and how he started out, let's hear from Logan as he's just starting his working journey. So Logan, since you are soon to be entering the workforce for the summer before you head off to post-secondary, and you briefly touched upon this, but how are you finding searching for a job and making a plan for the summer?
So as of now, all of my plans for what I was originally going to do for the summer have been canceled due to COVID. So my original plans were to work as a summer camp counselor. So all of those applications that I was planning to apply for, obviously, as I'm sure everyone can understand, were all canceled due to the current situation. So that kind of left me at a standstill wondering what I'm going to do, especially as I was looking for more full-time hours over the summer, as my current job only offers part-time. So what I've noticed, so I've been doing lots of researching online, looking at different websites, seeing what jobs are out there in my community and ways that I can help out that way. And I've also looked into the Canada Summer Jobs Program because due to COVID-19, they have introduced a lot more jobs for students by funding employers. So an interesting job opportunity that has actually come up recently is one that's with my current employer in a different area of the facility. So I'm looking into that as well. So there's been a lot of challenges with this because I've kind of had to change all of my plans for the summer and what I was going to do. And without having a solid plan in place, it can be a bit stressful. And I'm sure there are a lot of other people my age or older, younger, in similar situations. So I've even been looking into, like I mentioned earlier, working from home opportunities. So we're looking into lots of different options for me right now. But at the moment, I'm looking at applying for that other job in my facility and other work at home options. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, you have a plan started, and that's a really good thing. As Logan talked about, he's moving on to post-secondary and graduating high school this year. I want to share a really fun fact. So did you know that 350,000 students graduate from high school in Canada each year? But during these COVID times, and as Logan mentioned, the Government of Canada is creating and funding programs. So some include the Youth Employment and Skills Strategy Program and the Student Work Placement Program. These programs are designed to connect students to meaningful employment and service opportunities to help them prepare for the workforce. So by the way, all this information will be posted on our website after the webinar. Jamie, I'm going to jump to you next. Tell us how your co-op placement 3 years ago transitioned into your current career, and how has COVID affected your current status? I know you've answered a little bit about that before, but share a little bit more with us.
Okay. So I was really lucky to be given the opportunity to have a placement in both my third and fourth year of my social work degree. So the process is the same for both years. You kind of get a feel for what you want to go into. My kind of eyes on the prize has always been chronic illness, healthcare, kind of just a really broad healthcare focus. So that kind of limited my options in terms of choosing. And what I now know is epilepsy has a very large stigma around it, as does diabetes. So that was the first connection, but I subconsciously was not aware of that when choosing. So I was the only applicant to this place, and I'm so glad I decided to apply. And after an interview and whatnot, I landed my third year placement at Epilepsy, Ottawa. So it was a full year placement. I was there 2 or 3 days a week, doing more social work stuff. They had never had a social worker before. They had never had a student before. So it was a very new learning curve for everyone involved. And when I say everyone, I mean the executive director and the other employee that was working there at the time. It is, like I said, still a very, very small organization. So I kind of got to grow in my own environment, which was really cool. I got to learn as we went. My boss got to learn how to be a boss to more than one person. As you can imagine, there was bumps along the way, but she saw a lot of growth in me throughout that 8 months there. And she then decided to offer me a summer student position there for the summer. So that was just super lucky. So of course I took it. It was in my field. It was in an area that I was already interested in. So I took it, and then it's kind of like a really long progression of how I landed my job now. But I was then offered a contract position for my last year of university, managing this program and keeping up with it a few hours a week. So that was amazing. What university student doesn't want a little bit of extra cash in their pocket, especially in the last year? So I was able to do that on top of, an additional placement and working. So I stayed connected with the agency, which was really important. I developed an amazing relationship with the executive director, which is always a really great start into future job opportunities, is having good relationships. And then my boss applied to a large grant, a 3-year grant, to run an education program and hire 2 full-time staff. And it just so happened to align that we got the grant, and I was graduating from university at the end of my 4th year. And she called me up and she offered me the job. It was put through the board of directors, and I landed in the position that I am in currently. And I've been here for about a year. So like I was saying before, I do a lot of education with individuals and families who are going through a new diagnosis of epilepsy. Its main goal is to keep people out of the hospital as much as possible. And again, I mentioned before, I'm working exclusively from home now, whereas I was only working a few days at home prior to this. So not a huge transition, but enough of one to make a difference in programming. So we're now doing all of our stuff online, and it's going really, really well so far.
Great. You've been doing some really great things. And as you kind of talked about, you've moved some programming to that's all virtual based, which is really interesting. So again, I have a really interesting fact for the nonprofit side of things. So 54% of charities have transitioned their in-person programs to online, and 42% have developed completely new programs in response to the need of COVID, just as Diabetes Hope did with our webinars. But Jamie, it really does sound like that the organization that you work for has really benefited from moving to virtual programming. You continue to reach more and to help more people. It's
Definitely.
great. So with the uncertainty of the job market, and as Jamie talked about working from home and moving from working in an office to working from home solely, how's your diabetes changed, or has it changed?
I think, I'm fortunate enough to be home all the time with my parents now. So I always have a cupboard that's fully stocked with food. And managing my diabetes has been, I would say, better now than my busy, crazy student working life. I find that sometimes just all of that gets a little bit overwhelming with the amount of care we have to put into it. So kind of being able to focus more on it has been really great. And I think, numbers wise, I've been improving and staying within target a lot more since I've been home. So hopefully making good choices and good practices to take that into my busy life moving forward.
Great. It's really good to hear that you are taking what you're learning now and then putting it forward into the rest of your life. So that's really good. Logan, how about you? How has your diabetes management changed?
Well, as Ali was saying, having a different routine, I guess, can be very challenging when you're trying to manage your diabetes, because my normal day looked like going to school, coming home for like an hour, and then heading straight to work and stuff like that. So going from a very busy lifestyle to being stuck at home all day, every day, certainly has presented some challenges of its own. So I personally have noticed that my blood sugars have required a little bit more insulin to come down and stuff like that, as I'm not so mobile all the time. And I've also noticed that I've had to adjust basal rates as well, stuff like that. So lots of different dosing adjustments on my pump, I guess you could say, has been able to help me adjust to the different situation, as this is something that most of us have never really experienced before, and our bodies haven't either. So it's definitely something to get used to, I guess, for the temporary situation. But also, I've found what's helpful is finding ways to incorporate physical activity as well. So, which can be challenging when you're trying to follow public health measures and everything else. So, even just getting out for a walk every night, some stuff like that can really be helpful to your blood sugar. So I've noticed that's been helpful, and it's really important even for your mental health to get outside, breathe some fresh air, and make sure to stay physically active while you're stuck at home.
Well, it's so easy to get outside now because the weather is beautiful. I mean, hot, but it's been really nice to get outside. And Jamie, how about you?
It's been interesting. I think it's been good overall. I've shuffled around quite a bit in the last 8 weeks or so. I went from my living alone with my apartment in Gatineau to my parents' house in a rural community in Renfrew County, Deep River, for 6 weeks. And then I actually just moved in with my boyfriend. So there's been lots of switches, which, as I'm sure a lot of us can understand, can sometimes get in the way of managing, because like Ali said, things get really busy and sometimes things fall off the wagon, and that's just the way she goes sometimes. But I think overall, my management has really improved when I do settle down in a place, specifically right now during a time where we're always working from home. I find it a lot easier to just stay on top of pre-bolusing and making sure my blood sugar is in range and, carb counting to a certain extent. There's just a little bit more time and a little bit more space to think about everything that needs to be done, because our home environment should be a relaxing and comfortable environment for us, as opposed to a busy office or a workplace or a summer camp, all those crazy things that can sometimes get in the way. So it has been good. I've made the switch from actually pumping to injections for the time being, which has been a nice break. And it was kind of the perfect time to do that, because I am home all the time and there's less to worry about. So there's been some positive changes and some not negative changes, but just different transitions that have happened over the last 2 months or so. So I would say diabetes management has improved just because there is more time to think about it.
That's very good. And we all know the importance of continuing healthcare and finding the right routine, but finding that right routine can be an adjustment. But it really sounds like that you're all doing very well with adjusting to a new normal. So jumping to you, Allie, you mentioned that your hours have been cut in your current job due to COVID, but are you doing anything in particular to keep your skills sharp so that when you do find and do get a full-time job that you'll be prepared?
Absolutely. Very much like Logan, I'm a new graduate, so I'm trying to eventually jump back into the workforce. So I think having all this excess time and being able to use it productively is one of the most hardest things, but the best thing you can absolutely do in this situation. So some things I'm doing, I registered for a Photoshop course online. That keeps me really busy. And I have some friends who do that with me. So we have like little challenges and we kind of present our projects to each other. And it's this fun way to learn, but also be creative and stay connected. I've also, this weekend upcoming, I'll be attending a virtual conference for women in entrepreneurship. So trying to find some nuggets of wisdom and inspiration to take forward into my future career goals, and we'll see where I land after this. Yeah.
Interesting. Are there any other courses other than the Photoshop that you're taking? I know that's been a really popular one. So I'm just wondering if you can share some insights with our audience tonight.
Yeah, well, so the website that I purchased the course from, it's called Udemy. I'll make sure I'll send you the link so you can post it after. But they have so many different types of courses, like, yeah, hands-on like programs, but also like social work up there and like psychology things. There's just like a whole bunch of things, and it's like an online archive of lots of random courses you can take to keep your skills really sharp from different professionals around the world. And it's really cool to see what's out there. I'm sure if you do some digging as well, there's lots of places offering courses. Even I find YouTube videos are really helpful as well. When I get stressed at the Photoshop one, I just go to YouTube because sometimes it's simpler. So there's a lot out there for people to be absorbing good knowledge during this time for sure.
That is really interesting, Allie. Thank you for sharing that. So, Logan, have you been doing any courses with your free time, sharpening your skills before you head off to post-secondary?
Not as of now. I have not enrolled in any, as I'm still doing online school for grade 12 until the end of June, which has been quite heavy for now, which has also been, I guess I have to say, a difficult adjustment. I never really prepared myself to learn chemistry and math online. But I guess I'm getting through it well. So keeping my marks high and everything throughout the difficult time has been a struggle, but it's certainly something I'm proud of at this point. So I'm looking forward to graduating. I wish it wasn't virtually, but I understand that due to the circumstances, it has to be that way. But I'm looking forward to the summer where I think we'll still be home in the summer. So I think I'll have more time to do that sort of thing and prepare myself for some stuff for next year. So.
And that's a really good idea, is to focus on your summer plans and focusing on your schoolwork now. So we've talked about how your hours have been cut and some of the stresses, but I want to dive into a little bit more about the stresses that you are feeling with your cut hours, with working from home and having to change and be in a new normal. So Ali, let's start with you. How are you feeling around what stresses are you feeling and how are you coping with that?
Yeah, sure. So I would say, so I've been home, so in isolation, I think for 10 weeks and home for 8. Moving back home with your parents when you're 25 is quite the adjustment. That was a little tough to deal with, like mentally for me, to be like, to accept the fact that I'm coming back here, but it's obviously for good, safe reason. So a lot of the challenges I've faced are around kind of getting out of my own way about the situation and really being able to look at the things I can control versus not focusing on the things I can't control, which is absolutely most things right now. I've been really upset, frankly, for the past few months because the future is a giant question mark, and that's tough to deal with as someone, as a post-grad graduate who had a plan, thought she knew what she was going to do, and you have these expectations about jumping right into a job and starting your life, and so I think being able to readjust those expectations has been a process for me, but definitely now in a much better place where I can focus on doing positive things, like looking ahead to my future and trying to build something off that now and be more productive now. And that's been really helpful, especially the past like 2 or 3 weeks, to stay positive and be looking forward to getting to the other side of this.
Adjusting and readjusting can always be a challenge.
Yeah.
So Jamie, what are you doing to address those stressors that you have around your work and COVID and what's happening right now?
So I'm very fortunate to work in a job where my boss is super understanding. She knows that, it's not really working from home right now because it's forced. We don't really have another choice right now. But she's really encouraging us to get out, get active, take breaks as needed. Don't create work for yourself. So that's a really great place to start in fostering a positive and productive work environment. So the stress level is relatively low right now. Obviously, there's the news and everything else going on in the world that is stressful for most people watching it because, like Ali said, not just in terms of work, but the whole world is kind of a big question mark right now. Like, when are things reopening? Is there going to be a surge? That sort of thing. So that is I guess an area of stress that I am constantly thinking about, which sometimes can get in the way of working, but I find really staying active and being productive and doing things that make me feel good, whether it's, organizing a pantry or like silly little things that make you feel like you're doing something and distract your brain for a little while helps kind of refocus and readjust. And like I said before, I'm really, really lucky to have a boss who understands that and knows that it's a stressful time for everyone right now. So just tinkering away at little things throughout the day, not staring at my computer screen for 8 hours. And I find having client meetings, particularly in my field, is a really great mood booster and energy booster for me. So fortunately, I'm still able to do that, and I'm still able to teach and educate and meet with people. So that definitely brings my stress level way down because it's doing something that I love. So I think that would be my biggest drive home point, is like continue doing the things you love in the best way that you can, and the stress levels tend to come down for myself anyways.
Very good to hear. And I really like the way that you put tinkering with something to make yourself happy. I do the same thing as well. And Logan, how about you? What are you doing to keep your mind off of things and to reduce your stress levels?
So as I mentioned earlier, some of the things that's important not only for diabetes health, but also mental health is getting outside and exercising, getting some fresh air. The other things that I've been doing to sort of keep myself from going crazy in here and from, missing civilization altogether, I find it's helpful to call or video chat with friends often. So I tend to do that as often as I can to talk to the people that I miss seeing in person. Because luckily in the day and age that we're in now, we can have things like Zoom and FaceTime to allow us to get together and stuff. So the other stuff that I've been doing sort of, especially related to school stresses, doing it online and stuff. So there's a lot of resources actually online that can help you with certain things. So even if you just search help with certain things to do with school, I can even get lots of answers that way. My teachers have been amazing and supportive throughout this whole situation, so I'm very thankful for that as well. They are basically available for us to talk to day and night, which I have been taking advantage of. But it is nice to know that you have those support outlets there to help you through this time. So.
And Logan, you are right. There are so many supports available, as Jamie talked about with her programming, Diabetes Hope Foundation, and our webinars that we do. And as Logan even talked about, the T1D group that him and I both work on together. Ali, are you part of any groups that give out support or other than these webinars?
Yeah, I mean, a group that offers me support is my gym. I'm part of a CrossFit gym in Ottawa, and they've completely done a virtual 360 as well. So all of our classes that normally would be in person are all online, and that's a great community to be a part of. We do like trivia on Saturday nights as well. So it's more than just the physical fitness side, it's the social side as well. So they've been very helpful, and similar to Logan, making sure I connect and FaceTime with as many friends as possible, and family too. That really gives me energy and hope as a giant extrovert.
That makes a lot of sense. So since we really are talking about careers and jobs and the workforce, and many of you are lucky enough to still have jobs. Unfortunately, Logan, I know that you're looking for something in the summer, but Jamie, Ali, and even Logan, do you have any tips or tricks to someone who is looking for a summer job right now? So Jamie, we'll start with you.
Definitely do not put a wall in front of yourself in terms of opportunity. You really never know where you're going to land or who you're going to work with. And sometimes that's the most important part about a job, is the people that you do work with. So don't put up walls. Even if you think the job might not be the perfect fit, you may end up working with someone that you become best friends with, and it's the best job ever, and it's fun and easy. So I would say just be very open-minded, look in places that you wouldn't normally, look around, find as many as you can, and it never hurts to put an application in, right? Because you never know where you're going to end up.
You're right. You never know where you're going to end up. Ali, do you have tips, tricks for someone who's currently looking for something, and even for yourself? I know you're doing part-time.
Yeah, for sure. What Jamie said was great about making sure all your doors are kept open. Yeah, similar to Jamie as well. A lot of my jobs and part-time jobs I've had in my working life kind of happen by coincidence, and I end up being there for years, and it's great. So keeping yourself open is really great, but I think also preparing for that. So whether that's looking at your resume and tweaking it, or adding some more that you just have been putting off and you say you'll do it later. No, like now's the time. Adjust your resume, look at job descriptions, see where you can improve your skill set as well. I think that's really important to take advantage of with all this extra time. Learning is a great way to spend it. Yeah, that's my advice.
Being able to learn and to grow, and it just helps build your resume. So great advice. And Logan, is there anything that you would share as someone who is just entering or trying to search for a summer position?
Well, I think Jamie and Ali covered that quite well. The only thing that I guess I could add is I find that asking too, even certain places may not even have a job posted somewhere. I find it's important that you ask places, ask people, friends that you know, people in the community. like if they know of any employers that are hiring or anything like that, because I've found that there have been a lot of hidden job opportunities that I've even had that haven't been well advertised, but have worked out amazing for me, and it's been a great experience. So yeah, I think it's just important to explore all your options and don't just settle for something that you're not happy with, and make sure you're making the right decision. And always remember that everything happens for a reason, and when one door closes, another one opens.
You're very, very on point with that, Logan. And I always kind of live by the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's actually how I ended up at Diabetes Hope Foundation. But that's a story for another time. But thank you all for sharing your advice and tips. And since all of this beginning of COVID kind of happened, have you noticed maybe in your job specifically, or if you heard from people, have you noticed the hiring process changing and how employers are looking for their employees, or what skill sets they're, I guess, more needing their employees to take on? So Logan, since you've kind of started looking for summer jobs, have you noticed anything different for you?
More jobs are related to healthcare that you can find right now, which limits a lot of people who don't have any healthcare training. But there are still jobs out there that are not healthcare related. But some of the job descriptions and stuff that I've been reading also, not only are jobs tweaked right now to be a bit different and possibly for the foreseeable future to be a bit different, but the hiring process has been different as well. So even interviews and stuff are obviously virtual for the most part. And even some jobs that are on there, you have to be careful because some of them are not, they actually don't apply until after some restrictions have been lifted and that sort of thing, but they're currently looking for applicants, but the job actually won't start until it's safe to do so, kind of thing. So I've noticed that there's been a lot of differences as time has gone on with what people are looking for in employees. So also your availability, your willingness to try and do stuff remotely as well, which can be difficult in a new job position, which I understand. But there's definitely been a lot of changes. Some jobs have stayed the same depending if you're an essential service, that sort of thing. But it's definitely important to choose your battles, make sure that you know what you're getting into.
Exactly. So I actually do see a question came in through a private message. So what are some challenges that you've noticed from working in an office to working virtually or working from home? So Jamie, I know you've kind of talked about this a little bit, but do you want to explain it? Maybe your challenges that you've noticed?
Structure definitely is my greatest challenge right now, for sure. It's no longer, waking up at 7, getting breakfast ready and driving to work for 9 a.m. It's waking up later, kind of rolling out of bed. You have the opportunity to stay in your pajamas working from home, which is both a blessing and a curse at the same time. So routine is something that I am really, really, really missing. I cannot wait to get back in the office, even though we will still continue to do things virtually, just because it creates a routine. And even though I kind of mentioned in terms of diabetes management, it is nice to have the airspace and the time and the freedom to manage that. There's also the part that a lot of us, I'm sure, miss the regularity of day-to-day life. And Alex, you mentioned the new normal. It's looking like, specifically in my job, who does very group-centered activities, it looks like things are going to stay online for the foreseeable future, probably into the next year. So I'm glad that we were prepared for this. However, office versus home, I would prefer to be in the office, if I'm being honest with you. But again, super grateful to have a job at all during this time. So I'm working with what I've got here, just trying to stay focused, trying to minimize distraction as much as possible and do things at my own pace. So where I don't feel rushed, or I don't have a really busy day one day or a really slow day the next, just trying to kind of space it out so I have a little bit to do every day while I'm not in the office.
And those are really good tips, but I know that I've been back and forth with the office and working from home. I can tell you one thing that I don't miss is traffic. So working from home is really nice because my commute is about 2 minutes to my office. So it's really, really nice. Allie, have you noticed any changes from moving moving to virtual work from working in an office? I know that you were front-faced.
Yeah, so in my office at the building where we have all the 5 radio stations, I in addition to being on the promotions team where I'm actually going out as the face of the stations to all of our events and live broadcasts and things like that, which is my favorite thing in the world. I also do like reception for the building as well. So I really miss going to the office. Similar to echoing everybody else, it really gives you a routine to have to be somewhere at a time, and it's not the same when you set your phone alarm and you have to be up at this time, and you're like, do I really? So it's nice to have like the structure. It's nice to be able to interact with all different kinds of people in my building, from radio hosts to salespeople to our office manager, things like that. So I do really miss that interaction, and I miss being in the world too, just like everybody else. Those are some challenges. It's a little quieter. My life's a little calmer these days. So trying to take it in stride, but definitely been a challenge there.
And that I can understand with always being front face and always being in the public. It can feel very weird being at home. And I know that's how it was for myself, doing so many events. And then being at home for 10 weeks was quite a transition.
It's a really huge change of pace, and it's kind of like shocking. And yeah.
I do want to end it off with one last question. What advice and what would be your takeaway to all of our audience tonight in the career sense? So Jamie, let's start with you on that one. It's important.
Allie rephrased it better, is leave all your doors open. Don't put walls up. Don't build walls for yourself. It's not going to help you. Like I said, you never know where you're going to end up. Take the opportunities as they come to you. You could make the best friends of your life. You could end up in a job like I am now, where it just happened to be the right place in the right time. So go with your gut, but also push your boundaries a little bit, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to take something that you might not be super comfortable with. So definitely don't build a wall for yourself is definitely my piece of advice.
Great advice, Jamie. Logan, how about you?
Well, I guess a takeaway sort of thing for this for me, and I guess it's advice for everyone watching as well, would be just to never take things for granted. So and always staying positive is also important, right? So I guess sometimes you take for granted being able to go to work every day and have that routine and that sort of thing, and I really do miss that. So I guess I kind of maybe took that for granted, and then one day it was gone. So I guess it's important just to be grateful for the things that you have and opportunities. And I guess some other advice would be to search for ways to be of service during this time. So maybe even if there are things that you can't do work related, or you can't find work, doing things for other people or to be of service can be really rewarding as well. It doesn't always mean money, but that's not the most important thing anyway. So the other advice that I would have is just do your best to succeed during this current situation, and remember that it's okay to feel stressful. I think everybody has that feeling right now, and lots of uncertainty. So I don't think anyone should feel bad about feeling bad. So another thing to touch on about searching for ways to be of service. So like Alex and I mentioned earlier with our Zoom kids group, it's a time to help others right now. So I found that supporting families and children with type 1 throughout the pandemic and even before has really been a purposeful and meaningful experience for me. So I really am grateful for that.
And that's really good too. You can do a lot of volunteering now, and Jamie even touched upon that with the website. And last but not least, Allie, what are your takeaways and your advice that you would give to our audience tonight?
Pressure being the last one. I think my biggest takeaway that I have learned, because I've really, really struggled with it in the past few months, is being able to manage what's in your sphere of control right now. I know Peter touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the webinar, but most things are completely out of our control. And like Logan said, it's tough to not feel down about it, but it's okay because we're all in the same boat. So looking at things you can, be in control of, or take advantage of. For me, that's, better diabetes management. It's online networking. It's learning new skills. It's like having more like quality connection time, maybe with people who I haven't spoken to in a while, or even my friends. So I think that it's important to take this time to really prepare for what's next. As challenging as that may be, it's only going to benefit you. And it's pretty fun to have the time to be able to work on yourself and your skills too. So my advice would be to absolutely take advantage of that as much as you can.
And preparation is key as well, and just preparing yourself for what's next. So thank you all so much for sharing your experiences and your advice. I know that we are leaving all of our audience members with a lot of information, resources, and be sure to check out our website for all of the information that we did share. And I do want to mention, if any of you need help navigating your job search, or looking for support, or looking for a buddy, be sure to check out the Mentorship and Buddy program that DHF offers at www.diabeteshopefoundation.com. So thank you once again to all of our panelists for your time and information, and thank you to our audience for joining us tonight. We really look forward to having you joining us next week for part 2, Transition to Post-Secondary, the New Reality. Stay safe and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.